Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 Last Days of Europe with me, Alpha Omega and Greater Germanic Reich. So in the last episode we finished the naval reform. Our navies are now split according to our plan into the Baltic Sea Flotte, Atlantische Flotte, Südwestflotte, Südostflotte and Flotte des Schwarzen Meeres. And we also finished, well actually we didn't finish it, we got the hiring spree, which blocks us from continuing on the research tree. So instead we started to look at the tree under the Stabssitzung. And I actually in between episodes went through that, because I recorded yesterday and now I'm recording on the 10th. And had some time, and this one seems like a really good one because we can get the core of arms, conglomerate of steel, and then there are things like partial privatization, past is past, both increasing our GDP. We can get some more from these, and eventually it leads to Made in Germany, which removes the heavy protectionism. Wait, no, it replaces heavy protections with strategic tariffs. Yes, I'm saying that correctly. And there are also things like the new German worker, which replace traditional roles with women in the workforce, giving us more taxable population and more, workers generally, which house a factory, dockyard output, taxable population. There's the Cities of Thousand Fires, which increases our GDP. So we'll probably work on this one next, because I kind of like it. I was also looking at, that's why this popped up, at the forced labor, because it's still institutionalized. Got it. Couldn't say it. Which is kind of weird because I was expecting it that by now it might be on corvial slavery or penal labor, but I realized that there was no change all the way until now, and it's actually fairly efficient. So I don't know when we're gonna get any changes to that. It's we'll have to wait, I guess. Anyway, I'm also looking forward to see how the situation with the slave uprising is going to continue. We've also done our best to help in the conflict in Africa, and we're going to continue with that today because our units are fairly successful in that. When you look at the first war, the Zitkasai are at 99% towards capitulation, so we can continue fighting here and see if we can force them to give up, completely give up. I don't want to have them provide any resistance to us. Okay, and as far as the investments go, by the way, I'm well aware that they would boost probably the entirety of our, the sulfur iron, but I don't think at this point we have, the money to just spend that kind of cash, so we'll have to see. Okay, and you're going to be done today, so let's just check. We have 279 billion. 279.5 and 86.6. I'm interested in seeing what the effect is going to be. Okay, so we're gonna give up now. Yep. The Leopoldo Verwaltung has defeated autonomous state of Zitkasai in a war. War is hell, and we got the core of arms. And now I don't think there's a lot to gain. Now we can go with the conglomerate of steel, I think. But let's start by the Treaty of Frankfurt. I'm telling you, Herr Schmidt, we can't accept that. We want to be free. There is not a compromise between freedom and slavery. Helmut Schmidt leaned back in his chair, resting the bridge of his nose between his fingers. And I must tell you that I'm working with limited time and space here. You don't know how hard I needed to work to even get this chance. To release you after a violent uprising? No. It would never be allowed. I need you to work with me here. Then perhaps I will remind you, Herr Schmidt, that we still hold numerous hostages. There was silence for a moment as both parties regarded each other. Though neither side could read the other's mind, both knew that they couldn't afford for the negotiations to fall through. For Schmidt, it could spell the end of his reputation. For the slaves, it could spell the end of their lives. There had to be a compromise somewhere. A bolt of inspiration struck Schmidt, and he took his chance. Look, I can't release everyone, but perhaps I can hit a middle ground. My proposal, you and the rest of your leaders surrender, and we try you fairly. The rest of the slaves are freed, along with the hostages. If you take the deal, I promise, none of you will ever see a slave factory from the inside again. The slaves looked at each other. Schmidt attempted to hide his distress. Were they sharing looks of joy, agreement, distaste? He needed a result soon. No doubt that Speer was getting antsy at how long it was taking to strike a deal. The two men on the other side of the table looked back to Schmidt. Herr Schmidt, if what you say is true, we would be happy to accept imprisonment if your comrades go free. If our comrades go free, I'm sure the other leaders would feel the same. The prisoners couldn't see it, but the tension of the last days evaporated from Schmidt's body as he rose to shake their hands. A miracle. So we're gonna get the event briefing next. Okay, now let's go over the... Wait, actually no, let's first check the effects. Okay, so 279.28, well that's not much. But I mean 86.6, at least the depth is the same. Oh, so conglomerate of steel. Reichswerke, formerly Reichswerke Hermann Göring, is not actually a private company, but may as well be one anyway, given the enormous amount of influence and autonomy they possess. Having such a large conglomerate under state control would normally stifle its profits, but Reichswerke possesses a monopoly on steel, coal, and other heavy industries. Combine that with the fact that they are remarkably good at avoiding their taxes, and you have a recipe for a truly abominable cartel. Reichswerke own massive numbers of slaves, not quite as many as IG Farben, but still numbering in the millions. These are some of the most pitiful, poorly treated people in the entire system, forced to work in dangerous mines, foundries, and factories for as long as their overseers demand. Reichswerke slaves are chewed up and spat out as corpses by the deadly meat grinder of industry, leaving thousands dead every year as the executives and their friends in the NSDAP and bureaucracy grow ever richer. We must slay this beast of iron and blood, no matter the cost. I agree. Speaking of which, I want to lower the social expenses a bit more, because we really need to start lowering the debt. I can't have it rising like this. Fortunately, it's just not possible. So I'm gonna go here, and you're already in the border region, so let's strike, and we are going to defeat the next one. Oh, this one is also at war with... Okay. So I have to face them here and then make a turn. Okay. Waffengigant. Friedrich Flick is an oddity, a threat, and perhaps stands as an even more dangerous man than Hermann Josef Abs. Though Flick's empire, Daimler-Benz, is not particularly expansive, it is its Verwirtschaftsführer that keeps the cogs of the machine well oiled and turning consistently. For what he lacks in size, Flick makes up for it by cutting through the stock market and working company-owned slaves for every last drop of blood. He is merciless, and a prime example of the Nazi brought into the modern generation. But that is not why he's so dangerous. In Erhard's eyes, being connected to the black heart of Europe, known as Ordenstaat Burgund, is already a horrific sin. Flick, however, goes above and beyond that, being a man who has direct ties to the abomination that leads the whole project, Heinrich Himmler. Not only that, but Erhard knows that he has directly supported the cause of the SS with monetary compensation. And so, in order to further the Einheitspact of the devilish ideology known as the Burgundian system, Erhard must strike hard at Friedrich Flick and his empire. Regime stability will increase. Okay. That is good. And what do we have here? Supply German forces. Oh, we shall. More weapons and everything to them, to make sure that the units are well equipped. is our primary goal. Yeah, look at that. We have absolutely nothing on us. The briefing. You're supposed to attack, and you can go down here. Schmidt and the gang entered the room all smiles. Schmidt himself carrying a healthy number of papers. Speidel passively watched as Schmidt carefully set them in front of Speer, who began to look through them. Midway through the first one, he stopped, looking back at Schmidt. Herr Schmidt, I'd prefer to not be looking through these all day. Is it possible to give a summary? Schmidt smiled. Of course, my Führer. I flew to Frankfurt and engaged in a dialogue with the slave leaders. Over the course of the next days, we spoke to one another at the negotiating table, concluding an agreement where, in exchange for the freedom of the hostages and the surrender of all arms, the leaders and the factory, we would let the slaves go free. Hold on, Speer interrupted. You let all the slaves go free? As in all of them? Schmidt paused for a moment. Yes, my Führer. It was the only way to a successful deal. Speer sighed. Jesus Christ. The Heer is going to fucking shred me, Schmidt. Do you understand? The conservatives, the militarists, the businesses, they're going to fucking shred me. My Führer, it was the only way, Schmidt replied, his tone of voice hardening slightly. He attempted to continue, but was again interrupted, this time by Speidel. May I interrupt, my Führer? Speidel questioned. He continued before he got an answer. While the intentions of Schmidt are certainly in the right place, I fear that we may see a wave of revolt among the slave populace when they learn of our softness on this issue. We need to stay on guard, perhaps raise security on major factories. Now Schmidt was the one interrupting. For God's sake, Speidel, are you still going on about this? Your solution would have killed 100 people, probably more. Sure, there could have been some unrest. There could be some unrest. Does it really matter if we saved lives? I'm not saying it was the worst choice. There were certainly worse solutions proposed. All I'm saying is that we need to be on guard. Schmidt threw his hands up in the air. My Führer, all of the details are in the folder. I'm sure you can find them for yourself. With that, Schmidt departed, with both the gang and Speidel following shortly. All that remained in the room were Speer, his thoughts, and the mountain of papers on his desk. Wait, but I thought that we tried the leaders. Get letters from the Reich. And technical issues. Siegfried scowled as he dug through the box of parts, many of which were covered in grime, oil, and rust. Go to Africa, his superior officer had said with a smile. No better way to serve Führer or fatherland. You'll be treated like a hero and will certainly be promoted upon your victory. He should have known better, but the promise of a promotion had been too tempting to pass up. Higher rank meant more money, and no one had truly recovered since the Civil War. He and his family were no exception. Even still, the reality of his adventure was far from the picture that he had painted for him. One would expect that if he and the other volunteers were being sent to this colony, it would be reasonably supplied and supported. That was a laughable assumption. The colony barely had any actual supplies, materials, or equipment, and that little they have was either outdated or just flat out broken. The guns they'd arrived with had quickly had maintenance issues. Normally he'd requisition replacement parts, or even just a new weapon. Neither was an option here, which was why he was now scourging in this grimy shed for... there it was. He fished out the piece he'd been looking for. It was rusted, slightly bent, and in any civilized society he'd throw it away. But here he couldn't afford to be picky. He slipped it into his pocket and returned to the nearby bench with a few other parts. Sitting down, he began trying to rig the gun into something usable. He grimaced as he beheld his finished weapon. It was ugly, might outright break, or even blow up in his hands before firing, but it was the best he was going to get. All that mattered was that it could fire, and the only thing worse than having a faulty gun in these parts was having no gun at all. Survival of the fittest. Well, that doesn't seem like true thing. Nice, look at that. The inflation has significantly dropped, so the real GDP growth has grown, and deficit GDP has dropped as well. Nice, nice, nice. Wait, the GDP has jumped up significantly now. Okay. So... That would be by... 200... Wasn't it like 270? I'm not entirely sure. It's kinda hard to keep all these numbers in my head. Okay, just defeat the militia here. And then let's attack the Soviet Infantry Brigade. They'll defeat the state of Katanga and the Congolese Republic at the same time. Okay, we still have this one. I'm looking forward to the military application, agency upgrade time, and yeah, those doctrine cost reductions will be very useful. So now let's take Kamina. The Commonwealth of England declared war on the Republic of Wales. What? Revolutionary Front. Okay. Now you have a focus tree and a big one. England and Wales at war. Well, I hope Ireland is ready for an invasion from the United Kingdom. The England of Britain is once again ablaze after negotiations between England and Wales have broken down. Wales refused to accept England's offer, and the two nations are now officially at war. Artillery and gunfire has been reported in the border regions. Many civilians near Cardiff are panicking as they fear the war will spill over into the city from the border soon. It remains to be seen if the conflict over Wales is a cakewalk for the English, or if the small Welsh army can keep the tiny nation alive and stop the Anglos at the border. I wouldn't bet on that. 78, yeah, I wouldn't bet on that at all. Okay, so the recruitment is gone, so that means we could now continue with this, but it would require us to invest more into science. So let's keep with what we're doing for now, and we'll deal with the rest later. Letters from the Reich. To our great Führer Albert Speer. My Führer, we of the Friedrich Wilhelms Universität Club for Albert Speer in specific, and the United University Clubs for Albert Speer in general, cannot commend your actions regarding the slave rebellion in Frankfurt higher. Indeed, there was some concern that you would go back on your word regarding the freedom of all slaves when the news was first passed to us. When news came through that not only had you sent Helmut Schmidt to negotiate with the slaves, but had succeeded in your goals, I can only describe the mood as ecstatic. Indeed, we can certify that in Germania we held an impromptu rally in your favor that was attended by at least 1,000 fellow students. Such rallies were also reported to us by our other chains across Germany. We are so thankful to have a leader who is truly backing up his promises, and we are certain that this chain of action will continue. Know that, no matter what forces try and stop you, we will always be behind your rule. Sincerely, Rudolf Wagner, head of the United University Clubs for Albert Speer. To the Führer, Albert Speer, one cannot help but look at your recent choice to negotiate with slaves, the bottom tier of German society, with disdain and fear. We in the Heer worry greatly over this recent course of action. Is it not true that we Aryans are superior to our slaves? If we treat our slaves like Aryans, then what will the meaning and the power of the word even become? Suffice it to say that many of us in the Heer are more than a little displeased with this recent change in action. Such foolish measures as negotiating with slaves will only lead to trouble and Western corruption in the future. And the notion that this Western corruption may be infiltrating even the highest levels of our government is very worrisome for those who love our Reich and what we have built upon it. I can only implore you to change course immediately, before the nation which we all love falls to Bolshevism and decadence. Sincerely, Oberst Hans Meyer, commander of the 2nd Regiment, 36th Division. At least it's mixed. And the aftershock. I like that. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of salt. I should go there and let's encircle this one. And you are... where's the second one? Okay. Going for the Richardstadt. Now, so far so good. The Leopoldville is growing, which in the end might be good for us. But, I mean, for how long? For how long is that gonna be the case? Yeah, but our special forces are just tearing everyone here to pieces. The Commonwealth of England and Wales has brought itself one step closer to reuniting Britain by defeating the Republic of Wales. Well, that was fast. England defeat Wales. Well, Scotland's next, right? Commonwealth of England and Wales. And Wales. Well, good on you. Celebrations can be seen in London tonight, as the Welsh government has sued for peace. The Anglo-Welsh War is over, and it ended the way everyone seemed to expect. Despite brave Welsh resistance, England was strong enough to quickly break through the Welsh lines and enter Cardiff. England intends to integrate Wales as another part of itself. However, there still is a large amount of Welsh resistance, and it is heavily armed. Experts believe Wales is going to be hard to occupy for England, especially in the near future. Another country falling to the prospective British Empire. Well, I'm right here, like, if you need me. Scotland, Ireland, like the Sulfur-Ein and the Reichspakt is way open to you. Aftershocks. Okay, so finally the chain of events here ends with one last event. But it was an interesting story. Not that it wasn't. I mean, well written, interesting, with options. Yeah, I liked it thoroughly. I told you it would happen, my fear, and it has. Read the reports for yourself. Speidel dropped a folder filled with paper directly onto Speer's desk. Speer took one look at it, and already knowing the contents, sighed deeply. Schmidt watched on, repressing his own anger at Speidel's continued resistance. Hamburg, 2 guards dead, 6 slaves dead, a dozen wounded. Danzig, 4 guards dead, 6 slaves dead, another dozen wounded. Munich, 14 guards dead, 25 slaves dead, dozens wounded. The list goes on and on, my Führer. Speidel spoke with the certainty of a man who had memorized these reports. Speer placed his head in his hands as Speidel continued. It seems clear to me, and many others, that this was a poor course of action to take, and now we are seeing the results. Schmidt cut in. Herr Speidel, when will you stop going on about this damn decision? I think it was a net positive. Of course you do. You came up with it, Speidel spat. He turned to face Schmidt, who seemed to grow angrier by the second. And you say it isn't because we turned your proposal down? Schmidt pointed at Speidel, who remained unmoved. We avoided a disaster by negotiating. Can you imagine the international response of us gunning down slaves? What about the students and reformists? You think they'd agree with running people over with tanks and cars? Now it was Speidel's turn to get angry. Herr Schmidt, it is your choice, not mine, that has led us into this mess. We would never see slave unrest to this scale if we had not enticed them to do so. Enough! Shouted Speer, his head snapping back up. What's done is done. There's no use arguing this damn point. If I hear one more argument about what we should or could have done, I'm throwing both of you out of my office. There was silence for a moment. Both Speidel and Schmidt were caught off guard by Speer's outburst, when he usually was the only one to remain calm in these scenarios. Finally, both men exited the office, leaving Speer alone to ponder what could have been and what his actions would mean for Germany. What's done is done indeed. Why is that by it? I mean, increase in unrest, sure, but the rest of it seems pretty good. And hey, our real GDP growth has skyrocketed again. Nice. Okay, So let's hope that this is going to keep lowering our debt, because we really need to keep it low. Global conflicts, or was it? No, silver iron. Okay, infrastructure investment. So wait, where were we? Oh yes, dealing with the rebellious states here. And you took Kinduport Empire. Okay, the Leopold of Verwaltung has defeated the state of Katanga in a war. Oh hello, the Americans are here. 3rd Marine Division, and they are encircled. Actually, let's take on these 4 divisions. I think we won't really be needing much of a force here. Okay, is there any way for them to retreat from this area? Nope. But we'll need to cut them off this way, because this American division is actually fairly dangerous. So it will mean for us that we need to be careful of how we're treated. But we're taking their capital, whether they like it or not. Okay, we can get an air doctrine, so either interception detection, interception mission efficiency and air defense, or this is the new helicopter that we researched. This is a naval attack plus 10%, naval targeting plus 5. Naval helicopter aviation. Although traditionally thought of as land-based technology, helicopters have just as many applications at sea as on land, if not more. Our carriers can be more than simply floating runways, they can be floating helipads as well. Let's get the floating helipads, and I think we ought to start producing the improved anti-sub heavies. Actually, can we make them an improved anti-sub heavy? Reliability on 100%. As swing boost in attack. Now let's just build improved anti-sub heavy with increased reliability. Wait, we have. Oh, I just spent the experience points. God damn it! I didn't realize that. I thought we had 92. I don't think we'll need that many. Let's put them next to these helicopters. Let's put 2 factories on those. We'll put them as a contingent on our carriers. Okay, conglomerate of steel. So this is gonna give us additional, hopefully additional boost. We're gonna get a new event. Political power, a lot of places get extra GDP growth. And I'd like to go for this one. The lives to save. I'm all for going full steam ahead with privatization of Reichswerke, but there is a catch, as always. If the decartelization of the corporation is too fast and disorganized, the millions of slaves it owns could quite easily end up in the hands of our enemies. Once in private hands, ensuring their freedom will become more difficult. Not impossible, but more of a challenge than it should be. We have a responsibility to the oppressed. Their lives are worth more than anything we could hope to gain from the immediate destruction of the Reichswerke. Though it will give Geilenberg enough time to save some of his fortune, that's a small price to pay compared to saving thousands more lives. He'll still get his day in court, that much I swear. For now, we should privatize Reichswerke only to a limited degree and at a measured pace, so that we can ensure no slaves fall through the cracks to be denied their freedom. Okay, the lives to save. And we got, 3 civilian factories. Okay. Now, one thing that I'm actually considering here, I don't think we need more naval dockyards, but we ought to build a couple of schools to increase the cover of education. So let's build those. Like so. And once we're done with schools, we're gonna start building some more hospitals and stuff. So can you please cut off the American division? Stahlerner Frankenstein. Edmund Geulenberg leads a monster into the Reich, and its name is the Reichswerke. Huh. It's a weird sentence. It is a juggernaut of industry, only outdone in size and influenced by the titanic IG Farben Company. Being that it is an industrial conglomerate for ore mining and steel production, it comes as no surprise that the Reichswerke is one of the most important empires to dismantle. If Germany wants to truly safeguard its production, Edmund Geulenberg, having recently become the new Wehrwirtschaftsführer, uses the connection he has to maximize profit and safeguard the existence of his income. Because of this, maneuvering through Geulenberg's web will prove difficult. There is, however, a spot of hope in facing this massive slaveholding company that threatens to undermine Erhard's plans. Of the four corporate giants, it is only the Reichswerke that is state-owned, which, assuming Speer's cooperation, will significantly ease the problem in delimbing the monster. All that remains now is starting the process and making sure Erhard can go through with it. Goering was a fool, but a useful one. And we finished the modernization of the Reichsnachrichtendienst. And now we can go... Modify the camera. Let's go with the Flakdarm B camouflage. Strictly seen as development by the Wehrmacht to be adopted by the R&D for its field agents, Flakdarm B camouflage is a computer-aided evolution of the camouflage patterns developed before and during the Second World War. Optically similar to the patterns used by the SS at the time, it can be adapted to different environments and is certain to bring about considerable aid in the concealment of R&D field agents. Okay, let's get that. It is expensive, but not as much as we might have guessed. Okay, this is really good. Now the growth is about 5% higher than if we didn't take that. And fresh blood. You know what? We're gonna leave that event for next time. We've already defeated 2 of the enemies of Leopoldville, so I think that we can... There's 1 American division, there's probably 1 somewhere else, but this one is the most dangerous one, and we're cutting it off already. Wait, did we cut it off already? Yeah, we did. Okay, so now we can start tightening the noose. We're actually fighting the American Marine Division. So there's 2. There's 1 over there, and there's another one over here. So we need to eliminate them. Our attack is way higher, but they have pretty high defense. So once we get rid of these guys, it's gonna be just us against them. And I have a pretty big hunch that they have no way how to reinforce or resupply these units. So it should be fine. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode. I'm just gonna make some tea and record it immediately after this one.